Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2022 Shriners Hospital DFS Tactics show. Going to try to rattle through the intro because these shows normally go long due to the nature of them, trying to cover as many players as I can. As always, statistics are provided by Fantasy National. If you haven't gone and checked it out, there's not much more I can tell you. It's an amazing resource, well worth the investment. Makes you a much better sportsbook gambler, much better DFS player. There's not much more to say than that. My links to social media are down in the description below. That's where I post my betting cards. Try to give some other tidbits of information before tournaments start and during tournaments and such. So go follow me there. You can reach out to me for any last minute questions or advice or anything that you want. I try to get to it, before the tournament starts. And then lastly, chat is open. Would love the interaction. Who are you targeting this week? Who are you fading? Who are you fading? Who are your top pivots? What strategy you're going to? So chat's open. Would want the discussion. What are you wanting to see tonight and all that. I said lastly on that, the last thing I have is that I kind of teased at the Tour Championship show that I had some schedule updates coming. And I haven't kept you all in the dark. I've just been trying to figure it out myself, getting my ducks in a row and such. But exciting news to come. The schedule will be added, or there's will be some things added to it, longer and so on. So exciting news to come. So stay tuned for that. Again, more to come on social media and in the videos and such. So I'm excited. Hopefully you can see that and hear it in the tone of voice. But enough for that. Let's try to figure out our strategies for DFS this week as we turn to the 2022 Shriners DFS Tactics. And hopefully the webcam will cooperate. There we go. It's been having some issues as I transition to out of focus. It's been weird. Anyway, so let me get everything set up here. Get chat up and rolling. This is the mixed condition model that I have ended up using this week for the Shriners. You'll notice from Monday night there will be some slight subtle changes. Some change in percentages, but there's one category difference, and I'm just going to go through the entirety of the data model and explain the reasoning and percentages and such. First, I wanted to see who just plays well on easy courses. This is a very easy course. Winning numbers have been 22 under, 23, 25, with cut lines as low as -6. So I just want to see who plays well on easy courses. The big change that I made from Monday night, I had strokes gained around the green short rough. And as I thought about it, short rough doesn't just apply to around the green. It comes in the fairways and all that. So instead of just focusing on around the green in that regard, I changed it to who just plays short rough courses well. And the reason I use the last 12 because there's not many of them. So I had to really narrow it down so I didn't get a lot of historical data. I only put that at 5% because I'm not very confident in it, but it is a metric that I wanted to see from players in the sense that I think short rough is going to be a factor. How? Full transparency, I don't know. But I definitely wanted to take that into account. So that's the big difference, is that I went strokes gained total in short rough, and then strokes gained around the green with no filters. Just a overall view of who's good around the green. Strokes gained approach, normal thing here. I only have it at 10% instead of 15 because this course is so easy. Birdies are better. I mean, you got to go out and get your birdies. You got to get your eagles on easy courses. Who does that the best? So I put that at 15%. Putting on fast bent greens, good drives and greens in regulation. If you weren't here Monday, I highly suggest you go check out that show. I explained fully why these two are so critical at this course. Proximity was a big indicator on who plays TPC Summerlin well. I want to see who plays the par 4s well, and a little bit of the par 5s at 5%. And then lastly, a big indicator was the length of the par 4s, kind of like what it was last week at CCA Jackson for the Sanderson Farms. So I definitely wanted to see that. So when I ran this statistical model for these percentages, not a lot changed, to be fair. Abraham Ancer is still my number one highest rated player. Hank Lebioda, Seamus Power, Sam Burns, and Sung J.M. are the top 5. Mito Pereira, Corey Connors, Webb Simpson, Victor Hovland, and Eric Van Rooyen round out the top 10. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I've got this converted over to the Excel spreadsheet. But it was pretty interesting to see, for me at least, because I've started the top 35, which is 25% of the field. I try to generally keep my player pool somewhat limited and try to find my pivots within this range. I don't want to go scouring everywhere on the price board just to find some uniqueness. So if I can't find it in the top 25%, then then I'm having doubts about my algorithms and process and such. So anyway, that's the reasoning behind why I star the people I do. I've just done the top 25% of the players in the field according to my model. If you follow this show for any time at all, Brooks Koepka normally doesn't rate out well in my statistical model for whatever reason. And the fact that he's actually in the top 25% says quite a bit. He's been playing better as of late. You see that he doesn't have very many red statistics, where a lot of times he does for me. His strokes gained total on short rough is not great. He still struggles on bent greens. Bermuda being clearly his favored. But around the green only being 5%, and he's not an abject failure at it. Now, he's been pretty bad, but all of that I want you to see is in one round here at the St. Jude. Otherwise, he's been fairly okay around the green. I mean, he had a pretty bad one at the Palmetto, but he's been okay around the green. His putting is hot and cold. 1 week at Congressional, he gains 6, and then the next measured round, he loses 4.5. So he's volatile, which is what you like in a putter. If a guy can really, really go low, or make a lot of putts, and you have the game like Brooks does, you're going to get a high finish, and that's what you want in DFS. So that was the first thing that jumped out at me for the kind of updated data model, was that Brooks actually ran into the top 25%. But you see here there are a lot of price ranges, and there's a few 6,000s here in the top 25% of my rankings, which is what you like to see. That way you can employ whatever strategy you want, stars and scrubs, balanced, all that stuff. And then when we switch over to the Excel view, you'll see that there's a lot of people gravitating towards one certain strategy, and that's something we can exploit. So no reason to kind of pause this video and take notes. I've got this converted to Microsoft Excel, but I wanted to give you the percentages at least, the updated percentages and all that stuff. Let's look at the weather, because the weather has changed throughout the week. And literally earlier today, I had a Thursday AM, Friday PM favor. That's completely flipped, just due to the weather. So tomorrow, very calm in the morning. So that's very good conditions for Thursday morning players. And the wind picks up in the afternoon like it normally does, but this is a stark contrast. This isn't going from 2 miles an hour up to 8. This is 2 to 15. That's a pretty stark contrast. So it's a decent advantage for the Thursday morning wave, I would say. You come to Friday, and Friday is pretty bad in the morning, 10 to 15, but heavy winds in the afternoon, at least what's projected. I mean, this could change in an hour. I don't know. Because earlier today they were predicting rain midday here in Las Vegas. Remember, we're at TPC Summerlin on the west side of Vegas. Just outside of Vegas, I believe. But TPC Summerlin. But yeah, humongous winds. Wind gusts up to 35. 30 and 35 miles an hour. That's a lot. And normally you would say, well, that gives the Friday morning much more of an advantage. It does. But so you have a Thursday morning and a Friday morning advantage. That seems like it's not that big of a deal. I want to key you in on something here. Look at the numbers. So Thursday afternoon is 10 to 15 in the afternoon wave. Friday morning, 10 to 15. Now, this range of gust is certainly higher, but they're dealing with about the same amount of wind. So they're going to be at least used to that, playing the course in that wind. Whereas you look at Thursday, certainly Thursday morning's wave is favored, very calm, pleasant, conditions and all that. They are the literal opposite in Friday afternoon. This is why I'm saying there's a Thursday PM, Friday AM favor, because the winds aren't drastically different. They're dealing with the same amount of wind regardless of their tee time. There's a big drastic difference in winds between Thursday AM, Friday PM, and Friday PM is dealing with the worst of it. So I've went ahead and listed players in my top 35, and if you're in chat, by all means, if you want to see a particular player's starting time, if you're going to take that into consideration, just shoot it in chat. I can look it up for you really quickly. But I see a Thursday PM, Friday AM favor. With that being the case, and again, I'm just going to use easy round numbers here. If you're going to play 50 lineups, then if I were going to play 50 lineups, then I would probably take this into consideration for 5 to 10 lineups, maybe even up to 15, just because of how, 35 mile an hour wind gusts, that can take a ball and throw it completely offline. And if you notice with the stats that I used and the percentages, this is such an approach-based statistical model that I've built. If these approach shots get thrown away by the wind, the players are fucked. There's no other way to put it. So before we switch to Excel, I really wanted to highlight this because there was rain in the forecast here earlier today, and if that were the case, it would have given the PM the favor because the course softens up. Guys can just shoot at the pins and all that stuff. Without the rain and now the high amount of winds, that is completely flipped, and I see a Friday AM favor. I could be very wrong, and that's fine. I'm just giving you my analysis of, the weather as it is 9:20 p.m. Eastern time. The weather's so fickle. It could be 10:30. It could be an hour from now and they cancel the tournament. What the hell? So I don't know. But for what it is right now, I see a Thursday PM, Friday AM split favor. So let's go to Microsoft Excel here. Pull that up real quick and switch over if I can get my software to work. Excel transition. Here we go. You probably saw a bit of the tiers stuff, which we'll get to towards the end. But here are my rankings, and again, sorted by my rank. I'm going to change that and make this fairly. It's a lot easier on me to talk about pricing. So let's sort by column B, highest to lowest, or largest, smallest, whatever. Okay. All right. So of the upper echelon guys this week that are priced, I should mention that Kevin Naw and Brendan Todd have withdrawn. So I thought I had this fixed earlier today. Let me do this real quick. Clear these rules. And, well, no, you know what? It's probably going to mess it up. Anyway, of the upper echelon tiers, you've got 6 here. Brooks, Sam Burns, Victor Hovland, Abraham Answer, Webb Simpson, and Will Zalatoris. So those above 10K. It's important to note that these percentages were grabbed around 8:30 Eastern. So they're a little bit out, they're about an hour old. Again, there's only so much I can do to prepare for the show. But you see here, Abraham Answer is my number 1 player. He's at 20%. He's the second most, projected owned player behind Mito Pereira down here. Abraham Answer is at 20%, number 1 player. It's going to be very difficult for me to avoid Abraham Answer. I really like how this course sets up for him. I really do. It's a shorter course. He's not the longest of hitters. He generally putts very well. He's just a consistent all-around, he doesn't have any weaknesses in his game. If there is a weakness, it's, distance off the tee. That's mitigated here at a short course. I just like the way this sets up for Abraham Answer, and apparently a lot of other people do. So it's going to be very hard for me to get off this chalk here. The second chalk in this area is Webb Simpson, and again, it's kind of the same thought process. Just very good all-around game. No weak statistic. Good putter, good iron player. Distance isn't a big factor here. I like both of these guys. I obviously like Answer the best. He's number 1 in my rankings. With Webb Simpson, I can try to limit my exposure to. I like him a lot this week, but I can try to limit my exposure, seeing how popular he is. Answer, I just can't. I've got a win bet on Answer. I just think this plays well to Abraham Answer's style of game. So it's going to be hard for me to get off this chalk. Victor Hovland is 3rd in this range. He's 9th in my model. I mean, he's a darn good player. He does struggle with short game from time to time. So if his irons are off, and he's second best in this field with irons, so you wouldn't expect it to. But if it is, he could have some issues. And him being as popular as he is, he's a fade for me. I'll have a little bit of exposure, but certainly not as much as Webb, even though Webb's more owned. Because I'm more confident in Webb's all-around game, whereas if Hovland goes lights out with his irons, that's somewhat expected, and I'll lose a little bit of ground on my peers, my contestants, and I'm hoping to make that up in the price board, in the 6,000s, and I have some pretty good values for you down there. I mentioned in the data dive and the initial research show, like, this sets up well for Sam Burns again. I'm just not going to pick a guy to win back-to-back on the PGA Tour. I'm just not going to do it. All the power to him for doing it. That I don't have a win bet on him. I don't have an issue using Sam Burns, especially if he's only at 10.5% projected ownership. But again, I can get away from Sam Burns if I need to. I don't know how much I'm going to have of him. I still need to make my lineups, and the fact that I need to limit Hovland, try to limit Webb, probably limit Zalatoris a little bit. Although he's got only one really bad statistic, and if his putter cooperates, look out. So I can use some. I can use some Sam Burns. I'm okay not using Sam Burns. It all depends on how the roster is constructed and how I want my lineups and how much exposure to other guys I have. Yeah, I kind of skipped over Will a little bit. There's no reason not to play him unless you're worried about this percentage here. He was very popular last week at the Sanderson Farms. Is he going to be as popular? Probably not. But he's generally a popular play anyway. So if you're scared off of this 14.5%, that's I don't blame you. You can find elsewhere. But if that doesn't scare you, there's no reason not to use him. That's the best way I can put it for you. However you see Will Zalatoris is probably the correct way. Lastly is Brooks Koepka. He's only at 7%. He is the definite pivot in this area. And it's a little shocking to me because Brooks is a fairly popular player, at least in the DFS portion. I'm okay going Brooks. Like I said, he normally rates out pretty bad in my data models, and him being 31st, yeah. I mean, he's kind of the same as Will Zalatoris in that sense, and he's a little better of a putter. He's certainly got, I would say, more upper echelon, like elite stats. He's got a couple of 7ths over here, 11th. Well, Will Zalatoris is first in greens, so. I mean, they're kind of similar players in that regard. And if you're going to give me, now, we'll say it's a whole 1,000 more on the price board, so you are limiting yourself a little bit if you go Brooks. But if you're willing to go 1,000 more, you're getting a whole lot of leverage if indeed Brooks is at 7% owned. I like that play. I like that play a lot. In this range, I've generally been going Brooks, Sam Burns, and Answer. Sprinkle in a little bit of Webb Simpson because I like this course fit for Webb. The 18% here really kind of scares me off. It's upsetting, but it just kind of does. Let's move into the 9Ks. We've got Louis at 99, Scheffler 97, Hideki at 95, English 93, Sungjae 92. Remember, Kevin Na has withdrawn, so please don't use Kevin Na. And Siwoo came at 9,000 even. The one pivot in this area is Harris English, and it's kind of the guy I like the most. I know Sungjae is 5th, but everybody knows I've been beating the drum for Sungjae. I'm a believer in the talent. It won't be long before he breaks out again and starts really competing and winning on the PGA Tour on a consistent basis. People forget he plays so much. He's only 23. If that, I think. He's 22, 23. He's very young. And he's very good. So, I mean, yes, he's rated 5th in my model, but I knew he was going to be more owned than Harris English. I like Harris English the best in this range, and he's the lowest owned. He plays easy courses really darn well. People don't give him enough credit for how low he can go. Now, he's not been the best in proximity, I'll give you that, but he's a good enough putter to make up for that. So, again, he's got some pretty darn good elite statistics when you need it. Par 5s, he eats them up. He eats up par 5s. He might not eagle a bunch, but he certainly birdies his fair share, and you have to here at TPC Summerlin. A third in strokes gained, total on easy courses. Top 16 around the green. Putting really darn good. He is a little wayward with some greens, but again, he makes up for it with his around the green play and such. So I like Harris English quite a bit in this 9,000 range. Louis, okay. He's expensive. He's the most expensive, obviously, in the 9,000s, but no reason not to use him. He generally doesn't play easy courses well, so if you want to avoid Louis, that's a good reason not to. But then again, he plays par 4s well. He plays par 5s well. He's third best in the field in approach. So Kind of like Will Zalatoris. If you're wanting a reason to fade Louis, look at the fact that he doesn't play well on easy courses. If you're looking for a reason to use Louis Oosthuizen, stroke gain approach. Plays par 4s well. Plays par 5s well. He's really darn good at proximity. So I generally lean no as opposed to yes on Louis, but I'm sure I'll have some Louis Oosthuizen. Scotty Scheffler I really like. He's projected at the same amount of ownership. I really like Scotty Scheffler this week and moving forward. I think the Ryder Cup was a big boost to his career. I think a lot of confidence is going to be built. Is just going to springboard him into, I'm not going to predict any major wins this season or anything, but I think he plays with a lot of confidence. I expect pretty big things from Scotty Scheffler this year, this PGA Tour season. And it could start this week. I like him a lot. Second in greens in regulation on easy courses. Plays par 4s well. Everybody knows he's got the link, so he devours par 5s. Putting can be an issue, sure. But there's a lot to like here with Scotty Scheffler this week. I like him a lot in this range, along with Harris English. Hideki, most owned in this area of the price board in the 9Ks. With this amount of ownership, I can fade it. Now, if his putter cooperates, he's going to be elite, absolutely. But there's a lot of guys you can say that about. So I'm okay avoiding it. I really am. At 14%. If you were talking maybe 10%, I could get on board. 14% I could fade. We talked about Sungjae. I'm going to have exposure to him, even if he's a little bit more chalky than this. I've been beating the drum for Sungjae. It won't be too long before he starts asserting himself at the top of these leaderboards again. Siwoo, it's how risk averse are you? Because he's liable to withdraw as much as he is top 5. If you want the absolute boom bust play Siwoo. He's top 40 in my ranking, so I don't have him starred. But there's enough to like about it. Great around the green, great at par 5s, plays short rough courses well. Doesn't hit a lot of greens, but again, being second in around the green kind of makes up for that. So, meh. Moving to the 8,000s, this is where a lot of things really come together for me in my lineups that I've been building. So let's just go through it in order. All of these are separated by 100. Paul Casey, Connors, Kokrak, Reed, Tringali, Adam Scott, Neiman, Matthew Wolff, Charlie Hoffman, and Eric Van Rooyen. Let me start off with the 3 easiest for me. I'm avoiding these 3 altogether. You see it in my rankings that for different reasons, Matthew Wolff has just been struggling. No other way to put it. He doesn't even play easy courses well. You would think the better players play easy courses well. He actually does a lot better when things are difficult. So he's just a complete fade for me. His best stat is 63rd. No thanks. That's a complete fade. And you give him the fact that he's the highest ownership in the 8Ks, complete fade for me. Joaquin Neiman. I love Joaquin Neiman, the player. I don't like these stats this week. He's good in easy conditions, and he's a good wind player, which wind is not factored into these. So that could be something, but considering where he is in my rankings and the amount of ownership, no thank you. Adam Scott, pretty much the same, 11%. It would take probably 5% for me to consider Adam Scott. He's more than double that. I'm off of that. So let's look at the players that I would consider. Paul Casey. Love Paul Casey. They're very rare that you get less than, say, 12 or 13% on Paul Casey. That's just speaking to the quality of this field. He has not been putting well, and you saw that on full display at the Ryder Cup. I don't remember him sinking a lengthy putt of any significance. He has been struggling on the greens lately, but there's a lot to like here. First in par 5s in the field. Third in proximity because he's number 1 with his irons. Again, he's another one of these players that generally he plays better when the course is difficult, but he can go out there and go low on easy courses. So There's a lot to like here with Paul Casey, and the fact that he's less than 12%, where he normally is, or even higher. I like Paul Casey this week. Same for Corey Connors. Corey Connors' bugaboo has always been putting. He's always been an elite ball striker, but if he ever made a putt, he'd be dangerous. Well, the putting's improving. I won't say it's good. It's improving. He's still very good with his irons, 14th. He's very good on easy courses. There's a lot to like with Corey Connors. The issue is, it could be he doesn't take advantage of the par 5s as much as he should. But, having said that, there's a lot to like with Corey Connors. There's just a lot to like with Corey Connors. Kokrak. I like Kokrak this week a lot too. He's less than 10%. Doesn't play well around the green. For what it's worth, he hasn't played short courses or short rough courses well. Again, I only put that at 5%. I don't know how much to take that in consideration, and I had to limit it to last 12 because there weren't many rounds of short rough. I like Kokrak this week. I mean, good drives. Birdies are better on easy courses. Pretty darn good putter. He won next week at the CJ Cup. He's the defending champion, so he plays well at, on the West Coast, or at least this time of year and such. So I like Kokrak. I do. Right now, I've kind of gone Connors over Casey over Kokrak in this area. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, Patrick Reed. This is complete narrative on my part, because you see the ranking, 64th. You see some high red statistics. This is speaking purely as a competitor. I played college ball, so I can somewhat speak to the competitive nature. I think being left off the Ryder Cup and seeing the team have historic success, I think is going to light a fire under Patrick Reed. I think he's going to come out and say, F you, I should have been there. Let me show you why I should have been there. It's a narrative, it's a gut feeling. I don't know if it's going to be this tournament that he comes out and says that, but I really do think that at some point Patrick Reed's going to assert a lot of dominance and remind people why he is a very, there's a reason he's top 10, top 15 in the world golf rankings continuously. Say what you want about him, personality-wise and all that stuff. He is still an elite PGA Tour golfer. And I think he's going to assert that at some point this year. Whether that's this week, I don't know. But it's going to happen. Tringali, no bad statistics. Not there's 2 really good ones, and putting and par 5s. 22nd and at 12.5% ownership. I can get away from it. I'm sure I'll have a little bit, but I can get away from it. It's okay. There's enough to like here. I'm scared away by the 12.5 if he's only 22nd in my statistical model. Now, 2 players that I'm really surprised at for different reasons. Charlie Hoffman ranks 17th. Everyone knows how blistering hot he was this past summer, cooled off and all that stuff. He's still been good with his irons. He still goes out and goes low. He has struggled with, being a good, good off the tee. Around the green game is shaky, always has been. But Charlie Hoffman has never, I haven't seen him at 7% projected ownership in a long time. You're giving me one of the better, I don't want to call him elite in this field, but one of the better players at 7% and at the price range. Yeah, I like Charlie Hoffman a lot. I'm surprised at the 7%. I really am. I'm surprised at the 7%. I understand the price. I mean, considering the big names in this field. But I would figure that the community would be all over Charlie Hoffman, and they're not. So, Give me Charlie Hoffman as a pivot in this area of the price board. Absolutely. Love Charlie Hoffman. Eric Van Rooyen, I am surprised, one, that he's as high as he is in my data model, and two, that he's projected more ownership than Charlie Hoffman. Having said that, I mean, he is the winner of the Barracuda, which is a different style format. Remember, the Barracuda is a modified Stableford. So you get points for eagles and birdies and your detracted points on bogeys and such. So it's a different style, but you see the fact that he can go out and go low, very low when he has to. So there is enough to like here. He plays easy courses really darn well. He's a good driver of the golf ball, regardless. But on easy courses, he really flourishes because he's pretty long off the tee. He's good enough with the irons. I know the approach says 64th, but proximity's 10th. Pretty darn good. Putting 13th. Fast mid greens, pretty darn good. I like Eric Van Rooyen a lot this week. I'm going to have a lot of both of these guys and somebody else here that we'll talk about very soon. But I like both of these guys. And the fact that they're at the lower end of the 8,000s means you can either, kind of get greedy, go Koepka, Sam Burns, or Hovland if if you're not scared off by the 15.5% ownership. Or, this is kind of the core of a pivot style balance team. You go Charlie Hoffman at EVR. That maybe you can eat some Abraham Answer chalk up here. You can go like Louis or Scheffler. That's the makings of a pretty solid pivot style balance team. So I'm going to have a lot of ownership in this area with these two. I like Paul Casey. I like Corey Connors. Jason Kokrak and Tringali might get no ownership from me just by process of elimination. And I do like those players this week. I really do. But I like Casey more. I really like Connors. Now, 13.5% could absolutely wane my interest in him. But, Paul Casey, Kokrak at under 9%, Charlie Hoffman at 7, EVR 7.5. Yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm at in the 8Ks. Let's move to the high 7Ks. Aaron Wise, Henley at 79, Mito and Strillman at 78, McNeely and Danny Willett at 77, Gooch, Leishman and Brian Harmon at 76, and Tagala, Kazire and Ryan Palmer at 75. You'll notice that only two of these guys made the star list. Pat and Kazire really let me down last week at the Sanderson Farms. I was very high on Kazire, and he misses the cut because, that's... Anytime I'm very high on a player, they're just like, oh, Nick's on me? I'll just come out, hit it around for a couple days, and go home. Thanks. But, most of these guys, I'm pretty much off. Strillman just made it at 35th. Sure. He doesn't play the easiest course, the easier courses well. People don't give him credit for how good he really is. He plays difficult courses pretty darn good. He does hit greens. He's always been good around the green. Pretty good at par fours. Yeah, there's enough here that he's a decent pivot, especially considered to the guy at the same price. Everybody knows that I love Mito Pereira. Sorry, that kind of skipped on me. Everybody knows I love Mito Pereira. I'm going to be on him all year, betting and DFS-wise. This is 1 week I can fade him. 20% is just too much. It's just too much for me. The course does set up well for him, so if you're willing to eat this chalk, I completely understand. No green statistics, all this stuff. Yeah, I just, no, I can't get there. Not at 20%. Sorry, I'm just making sure of something here. Hang on. Let me undo this sort. And Where's Brooks Koepka? Did all his stats come over? Yeah, it did. All right, that's just kind of weird. I apologize. That was kind of just throwing me off. Anyway, so Mito, I can get off. Well, again, if you like him, use him. He's kind of the Abraham answer of this area. There's no reason if you want to use Mito to not use him. But you got to understand that that's your chalk. And you need to find 5 pretty darn unique players because you've set yourself up for a 5v5. And then if you go answer and Mito, oh boy, that's a lineup that I don't recommend, although I understand completely why you'd want to use it. I don't recommend it just because you're setting yourself up for a 4v4 against probably 35% of the contestants in your contest. That's pretty difficult. That's pretty difficult to overcome. So yeah, just fade for me. Again, this course sets up well for Mito. I'll probably end up having a little bit of Mito, but it is certainly curtailed, seeing 20%. The other guy I want to talk about, other than Streelman, is Aaron Wise. And I really liked Aaron Wise last week. He was 4th in my data model. He imploded a little bit on Sunday. When I say imploded, he shot even par, whereas everybody else was going 6 and 7 under. But he was 4th in my rankings last week. He's 12th this week. He's only 8.5% owned. No bad statistics. Give me all the Aaron Wise this week. So even though I didn't touch on him on the 8Ks just because 7,900, this area of the price board I've been hammering a lot. So if these guys don't play well, it's going to be a shitty weekend for me. But you factor in the amount of the uniqueness of these guys and how I think they're going to play well, I think I have found something in the price board that I can exploit. Yeah, I like Aaron Wise a lot this week. Not really any strong feelings for the rest of this area of the price board. I kind of like Taylor Gooch, to be honest. He's very good with his irons. Everybody knows that I much prefer iron players. Very good around the green if he does miss. He takes advantage of the par 5s enough. I kind of like Taylor Gooch this week. There are certainly enough things to be wary of. He's not the best driver of the golf ball. It's hard for him to take advantage because of the lack of good drives. But yeah, I don't mind Taylor Gooch as much. But I'm Aaron Wise or bust in this area of the high 7s, basically. Moving to low 7s. You've got Seamus Power, Grillo, Ortiz, and Kisner at 74. Schwartzel, Taylor Moore, Ricky Fowler, and Cameron Davis at 73. Bramlett, Stallings, Perez, and Luke List at 72. Merritt, Damon, Martin Laird, Stuart Sink, and Rasmus Højgaard from 71 at 71. Norlander, Reeve, Poulter, Glover, Moore, and Munoz and Cameron Young at 7,000. You'll notice that Monday night I was having a little bit of trouble with Munoz because they used a different format for him. They got it back, so I do have the statistics. I said then that I was off with Sebastian Munoz. I still am for the same reasons. Yeah. So in the low 7s. Seamus Power is number 3 in my statistical model. I'm going to use Seamus Power. Not much more to say. 5.5%, all the Seamus Power. Grillo, don't like him this week. Although there's enough here. I mean, he's great with his irons. Therefore, he's very good in proximity. For what it's worth, short rough, he plays well. I just like guys a lot better. So he's going to be eliminated just, process of elimination. You can't play everybody. But I do like Grillo, and at 5%, there's some value there. The only real chalk in this area is at the very, very bottom at Henrik Norlander and Lucas Glover. Glover, I can tell you, is getting some love because he plays comparison courses well, and he's played this course well, I believe. And you'll have to double check me on Monday night when I really dug into it for the data dive. I believe he was second or third in strokes gained total here at TPC Summerlin. So he plays this course well. He plays comparison courses well. I understand why he's at 10%. But if people are gravitating towards this area of the price board, I can move off of that and go somewhere else. Again, 10.3% is not chalk. So if you're in, around this area of the price board to fill out, Lucas Glover is a fine play. Henrik Norlander is a fine play. I mean, look here. Look how well he plays these easy courses. Proximity, very good. He doesn't play the par fours great, and that's such an important factor here. He's never been a good putter, so enough to make me fade 10.5, at least if I'm gravitating towards this end of the price board. But there's enough to like as well. If you want to go on the easy course narrative, again, 10.5 is not chalk. It's just chalk compared to the others in this region. But guys, I want to highlight in the low sevens. I showed you Seamus Power. I like Taylor Moore, even though he didn't get started. I mean, this is one of the best players from the Korn Ferry Tour, if not the best player from the Korn Ferry Tour. This guy can play. He showed it last week at the Sanderson Farms. Yeah, I like Taylor Moore. I like Joseph Bramlett. I was all over him last week. He did okay. Stallings, Perez, sure. Troy Merritt is somebody I really like this week. I really like because of this. And even though putting is not the most important statistic here, they can make up for a lot of ills, as in not being the best with his approach. But he does play these easy courses well. He was in the playoff with Cameron Davis at the Rocket Mortgage. Him, Joaquin Neiman, and Troy Merritt. And Troy Merritt battled Troy Merritt and Cameron Davis went, I think, 6 playoff holes. Subtle brag, not so subtle. When I hit Cameron Davis, I was sweating it out with Troy Merritt being there for as long as he was. So he definitely plays easy courses well. Is somebody I'm going to have some exposure to, absolutely. So there are some other options in the low sevens other than Norlander and Glover. And if you use these two, by all means, they're not bad plays. I'm pivoting the chalk in the area. They're not chalk compared to the, full field. They're just chalk for the area. Don't want to go through all the 6Ks. Just highlight a few. Somebody else that is around that price board, Glover, Norlander. I like Roger Sloan this week. No terrible statistics, no great ones. He's got a few in the top 20, but no terrible statistics are the ones that I think will play this week. I like Roger Sloan. 4%? Oh, yeah. Absolutely. You mean 4% of him versus 10.5 and 10 and change on Glover? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like Roger Sloan this week. Somebody else I've been gravitating towards, Hayden Buckley. He's played the Korn Ferry Tour fairly well. He played very well last week at the Sanderson Farms. I think he was tied for second, if I'm not mistaken. 2.5, 2 and some change projected ownership. I like Hayden Buckley a lot this week. There was a couple other. Seth Reeves, 1.5%. I'm less bullish on him than I am at Hayden Buckley, but if you need to save 200, I like Seth Reeves. The one I'm hammering is Hank Leviota. Second in my data model, 8% owned. Now, he is the chalkiest in this area, other than Mark Hubbard of the 6Ks, really. But I second in my data model, 8%. No bad statistics. I don't know what more to tell you. If Hank Leviota struggles this week, just like Hoffman, where did they go? just like Hoffman, Van Rooyen, and Wise. If these three and or Hank Lebiota struggle, where is he? He was 63. I just passed him. Oh. If those four struggle, it's going to be a shit-tastic weekend for me. That's what I can tell you. I'm all in on those four. Brian Stewart's actually somebody I really like too. I've been using Lebiota a lot more, but Stewart, if you want to fade the chalk in this area of the price board, it's the same price. He's 11th in my data model. He doesn't take advantage of par fives, but you know, I like Brian Stewart quite a bit this week. I really do. I've been using these two a lot, and if you put them together, you're taking a big risk, but you're able to put, Sam Burns and Brooks and probably another 9K in your lineup by putting these two 63s together. So we'll take a look at that when we start making some lineups for stars and scrubs and such. The only other person that I've kind of looked at down here was maybe it was there's nobody else. It is Brian Stewart and Hank Lebiota. That's the farthest I'm going down. Seems like that's the farthest that a lot of people are going down, except for maybe Mark Hubbard at 8.5%, which, I mean, sure, he's only got 3 bad statistics, so sure. Greens aren't great. Short rough isn't great. Proximity isn't great. The reason I'm off of him, if you don't have these 3 statistics, if you have 3 bad statistics, you better be very darn good at other things. He's good at easy courses. He's not great or elite. He's just good. Now he's great at around the green and putting, but you can't get there until you're off the tee and hitting your approaches. So I'm just going as low as Lebiota and Brian Stewart, and I like those two quite a bit. I'm going to revert this back again, if it'll let me. There we go. Let's look at the tiers real quick. There we go. Tier for those of you who play tiers contests, I've dabbled in it. Just not my cup of tea, but if you like them. Tier 1, Sam Burns, Victor Hovland, Brooks Koepka. For me, it's pretty clear. It's Sam Burns. I don't mind Brooks if the ownership is as projected like it is in the classic formats. Don't mind Brooks. I'm just fading Hovland just because I think he's going to be popular. I'll take Sam Burns. Tier 2, Answer, Scheffler, Hideki. I think I skipped one there. Scheffler. Yeah, Will Zalatoris, Patrick Reed, and that's it. I'll ignore the narrative of Patrick Reed for now. I'm off on Hideki. I would take Answer and take my chances elsewhere in the tiers. If you don't want to eat chalk, I'm going to say Scotty Scheffler. Zalatoris isn't bad. But for me, if I'm willing to eat the chalk, it's Answer. If I'm trying to fade Answer, it's Scotty Scheffler. Tier 3, Sung Jae, Webb Simpson, Harris English, Paul Casey, Louis, and I thought there was one more. Nope. So, in this range, or in this tier, I like Webb, I like Sung Jae, don't mind either of them. I probably use Harris English the most, again, basing it solely on the classic projected ownerships. I like Casey a lot. Just process of elimination, I wouldn't use him. I'm out on Louis for tier 3. Somewhere a combination of these 4, Casey being the lowest. For me, it's probably going to be Harris English, Webb, and then Sung Jae, although I like all 4 of them. Tier 4, Corey Connors, Charlie Hoffman, Cameron Tringali, Jason Kokrak, Siwoo Kim, Adam Scott, and Joaquin Neiman. I think that's it. Yeah. Yes. Pretty easy. I'm fading these 2. Connors, sure. Hoffman, yes. Tringali, Kokrak, For tiers, that is. Give me Connors or Hoffman. Tier 5, you've got Mito, Van Rooyen, Aaron Wise, Taylor Gooch is tier 5, I believe. Yeah. Russell Henley, Matthew Wolf, and Cameron Davis. Well, clearly, Wolf and Davis, I'm out. Leishman. Oh, I'm sorry. No, not Leishman. Russell Henley. Or no, I'm sorry. Taylor Gooch. So, leaves me with Mito. Again, very, very chalky. Eric Van Rooyen, I like a lot. I'm going to use Wise. Wise and Van Rooyen. And then finally, tier 6. Ian Poulter, Lucas Glover, Emiliano Grillo, Cameron Young, Ricky Fowler, Rasmus Højgaard, and Kevin Kisner. Not using Kisner, not using Højgaard, not using Cameron Young, although he played very, very well last week. No, he was the one that's tied for second. Hayden Buckley was up there, but Cameron Young was the one that tied for second. Ricky is the elephant in the room for this. I had a discussion with one of my followers, my subscribers, Monday. He asked about Ricky. I can't get there yet, although the signs of life are there. Can't get there quite. But a tier 6, sure. For me, I am going not Grillo, not really Glover. I think it's Poulter by default. I guess I don't mind Grillo. I don't like tier 6 a lot. So maybe it is Ricky. Just take a chance. We're all in. Bet it all on black. Why not? All right, let me hide these columns real quick. Hide columns. Here we go. Let's make some lineups. Again, don't worry about this. This is just my ranking for lineup generation. Let's try to build a somewhat chalky stars and scrubs. And again, I'm going to have to sort this just to make it easier. Data, sort, column B by largest to smallest. All right. Let's see. We've got chalky stars and scrubs. Let's start with Victor. We talked about how Mark Hubbard was pretty chalky there at the bottom, so I imagine some people are trying to squeeze the most out of they can. I bet they're trying to do this here. Mito average of 7,700. Wow. Boy, using Mark Hubbard saves a bunch, doesn't it? Let's see. They're probably doing, we'll say Hendrik Norlander. Leaves 84. What was that? Adam Scott, Tringali, Matthew Wolf. So I would think that might be a pretty chalky stars and scrubs. That's a guess, but I think. So let's try to buck that trend, shall we? Stars and scrubs. Well, clearly Brooks is the the pivot in that region. We talked about Brian Stewart, and of course that's what I did. I mentioned how if we're willing to use both of these guys, Hank Lebioda and Brian Stewart, we're going to save up a lot of money. Just because Hank Lebioda is chalky for his range of the price board, I'm going to leave him out. But if you use Hank, you know what? Let's just use Hank Lebioda just to prove my point. You're getting an average of 8,800 per. So let's go, Sam Burns. I was gravitating towards this part of the price board. Aaron Wise leaves me 7,500. Seamus Power. There you go. I think that's a fairly pivoty stars and scrubs that I like a lot. In fact, I'm probably going to save this lineup and use it. But there you go. There's a pivot style stars and scrubs. If you don't want to use both, or if you want to stay away from Hank Lebiota, Roger Sloan's at 69, and then we can move down to Scotty Scheffler. He's a bit chalky, but certainly not as much as the others in his area. Leaves 8,000 on average. So that's, like Charlie Hoffman and Aaron Wise. Maybe 8,700. You could go Jason Kokrak and 72. Joseph Branlett, Pat Perez. Perez is notorious for playing West Coast courses well. Taylor Moore, if you want to believe in the rookies. So there you go. There's another stars and scrubs ish style lineup. Let me build a balanced lineup for you all that is that's pretty pivoty. I don't want to get too far into this. Let's see, a pivot style balanced lineup. Let's start with, and I'll try not to use the same style of people. Let's try Louis, although I would personally use Scotty Scheffler, but let's try Louis, and then we'll come to Harris English. I would probably bottom out in this style of lineup with 69 at Roger Sloan, but we just use him. Troy Merritt, 71. Let's try Troy Merritt at the bottom. Then we come up here. Seamus Power. I know we used him earlier, but I can't get away from him at that price point. So that leaves us with, like an 82 and an 81. So again, this is, like Eric Van Rooyen. Leaves us 83. I don't like Neiman, but you could use Neiman. Corey Connors, if you're willing to eat a bit more chalk, gives us 75 for, Patton Kazire or Tagala. Taylor Moore. There's a fairly pivoty balanced lineup, I think, for you. Projected at 8% ownership. So there are options certainly out there to avoid the answers, to avoid the Mito Pereiras. There are certainly enough pivots out there on the price board that you can go out and find some value for sure. Connors is actually pretty chalky in his area of the price board, so I'm okay fading Connors. The guys, that's going to do it for the DFS Tactics show. Again, reach out on social media or in the comments of this video if you have any last minute questions, advice and such. Hopefully I've given you some places to look and ideas to maximize your chances of winning. Let me know how you do. I really want to know how you all do. I especially want to hear about your successes. So yeah. With that, for all of your lineups this week for the Shriners and all of the bets you've made for the Shriners, may all your bets be profitable.